Hello, everybody. It's another Thursday, and welcome to All Things Rex Worldwide. I'm Rex Sikes. I'm your host, and my guest today is Jay Menez. On All Things Rex Worldwide, he is a former Wall Street investor, an investment banker turned author, speaker, Hollywood filmmaker, and talk show host. He's turned the adversity in his life into an opportunity, and he uses these experiences to help his clientele, and that includes C suite executives, celebrity entertainers, top entrepreneurs, and others to help build satisfying careers, attract higher earnings, and serve with greater purpose. His talk show is Hollywood Real, and it's an unscripted talk show featuring top names in the entertainment and sports industry that airs on most major new media platforms. And so help me right now in your own way, flash your mics or hit the likes or leave some comments in the chat room. Uh, Welcome, Mr. Jay Menez. And here he is. There you go. Hi, Jay. How are you?
Rex, very
Jay.
good. I'm so excited for this. We finally got to do it, and here we are. I'm honored.
And here we are. And after a while, I mean, it's been a few months that we've been wanting to get this going, and we finally did. And I'm so thrilled that you're here. And you're not even at home. You're in a hotel. You're traveling. You're on business.
I am. I'm not in Hollywood today. I'm on the other end of the country in Celebration, Florida, which is a Disney built property right outside Orlando, and it's wonderful here.
But that's so very cool. So, Jay, and by the way, again, viewers, if you're watching live, you can ask questions and leave comments. You can hit the like buttons. You can subscribe. And most importantly, you can share the show for others. And if you're watching in replay, you can certainly leave comments, engage, like, and share the show as well. So, Jay, well, let's get a little bit into your background. I mean, you do so many different things. You wear a lot of different hats. And but most people who have experienced the kind of level of success that you do, and that you also help others, most people would want to know, well, how did you do that? Where did you come from? What's your background? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, that's a rabbit hole we could go down really, really deep, but I'll spare you the 10 minutes self introduction here, and just say that I consider myself a multi passionate entrepreneur, a bit ADD. I think all entrepreneurs have an element of that, but I started. I've had a bunch of different careers and a lot of different jobs. Just very briefly, in high school, I was a firefighter. I became a volunteer firefighter, which was, and then I became an EMT paramedic, and then I went into police department. Those experiences really gave me my first taste of public service and serving a community. From there, I went back to school. I earned a finance degree. I went to law school. That led me into investment banking, which led me later on into real estate and mortgage banking. And then my big pivot about 12 years ago into Hollywood filmmaking. I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I dove into that, and I've had the time of my life learning all facets of that, from producing and directing to all the technical stuff: camera, lighting, sound, screenwriting, everything, and I just love it. And from there, that led me to doing some work in front of the camera. I did a reality show. I've done just a tiny bit of acting, although that's not my forte, I will admit. And now host my own. I was doing some TV hosting, and now I host my own talk show, which leads me to be able to talk to some really interesting people.
Wow. So do you really think it's ADD, or do you think it's just a passion and a drive and an insatiable curiosity that leads you into different areas of endeavor?
Well, I think curiosity is that key word right there. I think I've always really been curious, and I'm not. When I get curious about something, interested in something, I tend not to dabble in things. I will go really, really deep. I'll learn it. I'll experience it. I'll get into it until I feel a level of satisfaction, and then I'll move into the next thing in my bucket list. And I don't think that will ever end, really. I've got so many things. I've done so many things, and there's so many things ahead that I still want to do.
I recently had on Lou Bracker. I don't know if you've ever had him on your show. He's 94 years
Mm.
old, young, I guess you'd say. He was James Dean's best friend, and he wrote a book called Jimmy and Me, a memoir. And in his book, very early in his book, he just goes, Jimmy had this insatiable curiosity. Sometimes it would burn out. He'd want to paint or do bongos or do this, and he'd get, he in the middle of it kind of lose patience with something. But he moved from thing to thing to thing, and of course he's been asked, all his life, did James Dean have a death wish? He goes, absolutely not. He wanted to live. He was filled with passion. He had great plans to direct and do all these other things. But the reason I bring him up is because that curiosity, you see that in people who seem to accomplish a lot, like yourself, or who really live intensely, and then you oftentimes the people who kind of go, I don't really like my life. If they're not really curious, you would think they'd be more curious about how they could live a better life, but it seems they just kind of tolerate, situations instead of going, what's next? What can I do? Where can I go? What would bring me the biggest joy or juice? And it seems like you've tapped into that pretty well.
Yeah, well, I'm always, like I said, I'm always trying to satisfy that curiosity, scratch that itch, and um, I guess I could say that Tony Robbins has this idea about psychological needs. We like Maslow's needs, hierarchy of needs, which is survival and food and shelter and those things. There are psychological needs that we all have to satisfy, which is certainty, uncertainty, which is variety, connection, connection, significance, the feeling of importance, and then most importantly, the two things that lead us to fulfillment, true fulfillment, which is growth and contribution. And in all of us, there's going to be one or two of those that are more dominant than the other ones. And I think for me, that's variety and growth, which works very well. So I can tackle a bunch of different, curiosities, the different subjects, and grow my knowledge of those things and experience them and experience life, and that's what leads to my satisfaction. But also contribution is big there too, and connection, obviously, with my talk show. I love doing one-on-one conversations, on camera, off camera, with you here. You and I have had some great conversations one-on-one, and you've introduced me to some fantastic people. So that's my jam.
Well, I'm very happy to know you and to be able to converse with you, and I learn a lot from you, and I really appreciate that. I want to ask you something. I wasn't even going to ask you this, but how do you define entrepreneur? Because a lot of people say they're entrepreneurs or they want to be entrepreneurs. What's the difference between a business person and an entrepreneur for you?
Well, there's a lot of crossover there for me, because you could be employed and be a business person where you're working in somebody else's business, helping to build that business, but not necessarily be an entrepreneur. To me, the difference is that the entrepreneur is is making his own rules. He's setting off on his own. There's this dissatisfaction with the way traditional corporate life is, and they don't fit well into that structure. I like to say that I'm an unemployable because I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I don't want to try to shoehorn myself into somebody else's structure, because I want to try it my own way. Not that I think that my way is always right, but going along with the growth and the curiosities and things, I like to experiment. I like to experiment and see what I can make of it, because if it works, then I know that's all me, and then I made it happen. Certainly, there's nothing wrong with being part of a team and the corporate culture and everything, and that's for you. That's great. I've got two younger brothers that's all they want. They like the certainty. Again, we're going to those needs, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you value the variety more, the uncertainty part. If you value certainty more, then maybe you're better off as an employee because you know you've got that check coming regularly. You've got your weekends and evenings off, maybe, but there's certainty in that, and a level of security that are more comfortable. I'm more comfortable knowing that whatever happens, I don't have to depend on an employer to pay my bills because I know that I can always generate income on my own. And that's something that's really unique with entrepreneurs.
Well, or it may be unique to you. I mean, that's very cool. I really like the idea, what you just said, that I can generate income on my own. I think people who are successful understand if they have it and they lose it, they can build it again, where the other people who are trying desperately to cling to it fear if they lose it, they're going to be wiped out forever. So
Absolutely.
the mindset that you just exemplified, I think it's marvelous. I also think it's that pioneering spirit. You have a vision, you go for it. You dive in. What you said earlier about being curious, and then going deep. Not just taking that surface level. So wow, kudos to you. It's really cool.
Thank you.
But it does mean that other people who want to create businesses or be is in that line of business or that endeavor of success, might need to embody more of an adventure spirit, the idea of, contribution and especially what you just said. I can make money on my own.
Yeah. Well, some people are hardwired for that. Some people are hardwired for the certainty. It's not
Right.
one's better than the others. They're
Right.
just different. Yeah.
Right. Very cool. So you have a book. Let's talk about your book. The name of your book is
Spark, uh, the 8 mental habits of highly successful people. And it's about inner game. So how we talk to ourselves and how that leads to success.
So what are some critical points that you can give us from that? And did spark come from your background as a firefighter, or because it's a spark within, or a heat or fire with?
That's very funny. I never put those two together, but no, that's not where it came from. It's really, the spark of inspiration. It's the spark that keeps you going, that gets you to the next level. We all fall into slumps, and we need that spark to wake us up, or that motivation to get us there. So I wrote Spark, about midway through my my filmmaking career. So it's quite recently. It was published in 2017, and it was the result of the product of a bunch of notes that I would take of listening to very interesting people, thought leaders across industries, across demographics. There's billionaires, there's pro athletes, there's celebrities, there's there's entrepreneurs, there's people in the corporate world, success in a wide variety of walks of life, and so I would interview these people, I would read them, I would get their virtual mentorship, watch their videos, whatever. Again, this goes with my curiosity. I really love what these people said, and I thought, okay, so this could be a book. I've got to put this together and put these ideas together because, like me, when I first started looking at success psychology, it was very confusing, that field, because you'd hear Tony Robbins, you'd hear all these people, and you might not quite know how to apply it in your own life or how it all fits together because it attacks or it addresses so many different points of your being, whether it's relationships or career or your finances or your health and nutrition. And so I decided that what was needed was a foundational primer in success psychology. So it's a very kind of, I think, an entry level book. I also recognize that mindset, inner game, the way we talk to ourselves, isn't something that's taught in grade school, and I think that's sad. And while I don't have any kids, uh, what is it that I would want to teach my kids that they don't teach in school? And the number one thing was mindset. And so I put this together. I took all these ideas together, hundreds of hours of interviews, hundreds of interviews that were consumed, took notes, and and created this foundational model of success psychology of eight foundational mindsets. And so putting those together, you get a piece. Each one of these pillars is supported by anecdotes from the different people that I listened to or interviewed personally. And so I'm telling their story. So none of this is really original. These ideas are not from me. It's from what these people. It's like a curated compilation of ideas. But when you put it all together, then it becomes very digestible. Each chapter ends with some action items and summaries, and it's very easy reading.
So I loved your book, and people ought to check it out and get it. And down below, we say check out jaymenez.com, and we've got different things here. We have been scrolling your book as well. So people watch the crawl down below, and you'll be able to reach out to Jay in a variety of different ways, and also be able to get his book. I love the book. Without giving everything away, because they ought to read it, can you give us maybe one mindset or one pillar that you would want to share today before we move topics?
Well, I'll give you a couple. I'll give you the first and last one. How about that? So
Very nice.
so the first one is what I call the mission mindset, right? And so that means that the most important element to success begins with clarity. So you need to know where you're going. So you need to be about clear what you want, about your plan, and you have to set goals on how you're going to get it there so that every move that you make is intentional. You don't want to be the ship that just kind of just points west, hoping that you get to Japan or wherever, because you could end up in Alaska or Australia or who knows where. So so you want to be able to you want to point your ship in a direction. Now we all know that life is a zigzag. There's never a straight line, but if you can set waypoints along the way and just course correct, then that's gonna lead you to success. At the same time, you don't want to just sit on the shore and not go anywhere because you don't know the whole path from where you are now to where you want to be. You just need you just need that flashlight. You just need to light the path ahead of you, directly in front of you, and go there. So it's all about small wins, um,
Beautiful.
you know, to getting there, and then you adjust, you iterate. It's like building a business, right? Apple wasn't built. They knew that they would come out with the iPhone or the iPad or whatever new gizmo is right now. They took a lot of paths there. They tried things that didn't work, so they iterated along the way. And that's whether we're a startup or we're in the advanced stages of our business. That's the way we have to do it. So that's the first one. And and then the other one's going to like an action mindset, a connection mindset, a growth mindset, which is very, very important. uh, there's mindsets of abundance. There's there's giving, and the last one is gratitude. The mindset of gratitude. um, Whatever level of success you reach, you can't you have to remember where you came from, and that you probably didn't get there all your own. We've all had help. I mean, even if you think you did it all yourself, and I'm talking about people in this country. People in this country have more opportunity than probably anywhere else. Even if you're starting from nothing. I mean, if you go to some countries, they won't even let you open a lemonade stand. Oh, there's no assistance. There's no interest bearing, you know, interest rates. There's no loans for small businesses or anything like that. Um, and even beyond that, we're, most of that we have our health. If you have your health, that's a big thing to be grateful for. Just waking up in the morning, you should be grateful. So, you know, whenever I feel down or down on myself or anything, um, you know, I try to quickly recognize the things that I can be grateful for. Um, you know, I always say that, you know, people find them situations where like, oh, you got to get out of bed. Oh man, I got to get out of bed. Like tomorrow morning, I've got to get up at what's 2:30 a.m. Pacific time for, you know, for something that I have to do in the morning. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to get any sleep, and I have to get up in the morning. It's going to be a drag. I have to get on the airplane to get here, and then going back is, you know, that whole thing at the airport. But if you can reframe that and say, from I have to do it to I get to do it, it shifts you into gratitude mindset, right? And so now, you know, if I feel down on myself, I just say, hey, I look at these things I get to do. There's people who don't get to stay in hotels like this and who don't get to get up early in the morning to go to a job and get paid and or get on an airplane and go to a home, much less a home in Los Angeles, California. You know, life is good, and no matter where you are, and I think that's, you know, as long as we have our health, you know, it's all good.
Well, I mean, especially because there are a lot of people who don't have their health, or conversely, they work so hard that they ruin their health and they sacrifice family and they sacrifice friends and leisure time, and then they get everything that they want, and they go, "Oh, I thought this house and this car and this trophy spouse would make me happy, and it doesn't." And,
Right,
and they
right.
and
Well,
they
those material things do not bring fulfillment. I mean, that's been studied over and over again. I know plenty of very wealthy, monetarily, financially wealthy people who are miserable.
yeah.
Right? Yes, they don't have to worry about money, but that as we know, that's not everything.
And some of them do anyway. Yeah. It's amazing how somebody can have all the money they want and they keep wanting to make more, or they're worried they're going to lose it. But that comes from they got it, but they don't really have the abundance mentality or the gratitude mentality or the idea that, you know what, I'm gonna live this moment and just be marvelous. And so that's why what you
Mm.
said earlier, if I know I can make money. I mean, I know that I can. If things change, I can do it. And I think that's something that more people, could really stand to learn and to embody and to embrace and to develop for themselves. Because as the world changes and as people get displaced through technology or whatever, they need to have a way of saying, you know what, if the world changes and it doesn't favor what I'm doing now, I can still do whatever I want to do, or I can make things happen. And you embody that attitude, and I really appreciate that. And you
Yeah, thank
and
you.
you wrote a book to help people, and you're helping people, like
Yeah.
right now by being where you are, you're consulting with clients and helping them. But so you've done so many things. We're going to have to take a break in 5 or 6 minutes, but for
Mhm.
the Los Angeles Tribune. But let's start talking about what you're currently doing, and your podcast, your show where you interviewed
Mhm.
people, is Hollywood Real, and also your foray into film producing and filmmaking.
Yeah, well, uh, well, exactly. So I produce. You know, I have my show, which is my passion there, and trying to grow that into something even bigger. But for right now, it's just something that I enjoy doing, and it brings me a lot of opportunities, not only in the connections that I make, but people see the show and they say, "Hey, will you come host my event or moderate this talk?" And I've got several of those lined up through the end of the year, which I'm very grateful for.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome. Absolutely.
yeah, and then lastly, and we talked about this. I do consult with fellow entrepreneurs who are trying to navigate challenges that they're facing that I had faced at one time, and successfully came through, and am now thriving. And so, so that's a lot of fun too. But and then the producing and everything, something that I've been doing for, like I said, 10, 12 years already. That's an ongoing thing. I don't do that regularly. Like that's not my full-time thing. When I am doing it, it's full-time. But if you were to look at my credits on IMDb, there's feature films, there's short films that I've not only produced but directed, assistant directed, been a cinematographer on, run sound on, like I said, a couple of acting credits, a reality show. That's a very fascinating field, and something that you can never run out of things to learn in that area. But just telling stories,
I'm gonna
especially empowering stories.
No, that's very cool. I produce and direct, but very, by comparison to what's going on today, very small things, and feature films, but I mean small by comparison. I started watching House of Dragon on HBO. Have you taken a look at that?
Yes, love it. I got hooked on Game of Thrones.
Me too.
Way back when.
But you know what I like even better than House of Dragon? Is their 20 to 30 minute making of videos. Have you looked at any of those?
Which is that? The making of House of Dragon?
Yeah, they have like a 6 minute, at the end of the show, they have, here's 6 minutes or 4 minutes of them talking about the episode you just watched. They have a teaser for the one coming up. They actually do have a podcast for House of Dragon, but they have a making of the episode and for each of the episodes. So now you're coming up on episode 6. Unbelievable. I sit there and go, I know nothing. I am so humbled. It is amazing. They built all these sets. I mean, practical sets. So the one statement from the wardrobe mistress said, we outfitted 118 actors. That meant knights in armor, peasants, all the different kinds of things. I mean, all of their hardware, all of their shoes, all of that, and 12,000 extras.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, that's like going back to Cecil B. DeMille. I mean, 12,000 extras. They're not all CGI'd in there, and they built these 360-degree sets where they can shoot from any direction. They do have some locations that they go to. Like they visited a couple from Game of Thrones, and they go, "Here are the constraints." I mean, you must watch this. You'll just be enthralled. It is amazing what they are doing.
Wow, yeah, that's certainly on my list. I really want to do that. But yeah, like you said, Game of Thrones, House of Dragons, the scale of that is just incredible. They are shooting an epic feature film every single episode. Not only the cast, but the locations. Where are they shooting on, like 3 or 4 different continents? At least they did on Game of Thrones in every episode. Crazy.
They're not traveling as much, but they are. They have different locations but they built these incredible sets that are like, I mean, they're just phenomenal. And not only that, but they now have the ability, instead of putting a green screen there and somebody holding a tennis ball, they actually have hundreds or thousands of images. I mean, I can't remember how many they say they have, that builds around the actors the entire set that they would be acting in, so they get to see where they are. It doesn't show up really as well for the actors as it does on camera. It registers better on the camera, but they're in the environment. They're not just playing in front of a green or blue screen, and it's just amazing what they're doing. Wow. And the only reason I bring it up is because the technology is being blended with live action in a way that, it's not like it's all CGI or it's all practical. It's this blend that's just truly amazing. And as I said, I have, I like little stories with people and stuff, but I just shudder to think of the awesome responsibility that they have. Putting something on like is so huge, is so vast. Just to look at what they did for this wedding scene and the amount of food that they had to do. And they shot the wedding scene for 10 days, which means they have to replenish the food for 10 days, but not only 10 days of food, but every so often so people don't get sick eating the food. So it's just like, it's just so beyond anything that I could even begin to imagine doing, but I would love to do it. It would be really, really fun.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to be able to work with that budget?
Oh my goodness, it sure would. So Jay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a real quick break for the Los Angeles Tribune. And for those watching, please do like the show, hit the like buttons, leave comments, ask questions of Jay. There have been a couple of comments. I don't know if we've had some questions, but leave questions and be sure to share the show out. And with that, we're going to go to the Los Angeles Tribune. By the way, if you didn't see it while it was scrolling, and we'll scroll it again, Jay's book was there underneath. And if you want, go back and watch the replay, and we'll also put it up when we come back. So for now, We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And we're back with Jay Menez. Hey, Jay, so what led you from one of the last things you were doing into filmmaking? You said you wanted to do filmmaking. What do you like better? Which hat do you like to wear? Producing or directing or both? Or what trips it for you?
Those are different muscles,
Yes.
really. And I would have to say that I've done much more producing than directing. I think I originally got into it to direct because I wanted to be the storyteller. I wanted to, work with the actors and shape that narrative. The producer, as you know, he's really the guy who makes things happen, but it's the director that makes the movie. And so, yeah, I mean, I like them both. I would like to do more directing in the future, though. Just have to find the right material and the right opportunity. If it comes to me, then I would embrace it. I've got a couple of projects. One that both I'm producing, and one that I may direct, depending on what other talent and the budget goes in there. Because it's a biopic. I'm not going to say too much about either one because I can't. But one of them is a biopic that's very dear to my heart, and if this is a project that I initiated, it's my baby, and if I can find somebody who wants to fund it, and we have a shared vision, then I'd be glad to direct it. If they want a different director, a more more well-known or skilled director, that's fine. It's not a deal breaker to me. I just think it's very important to tell the story.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, so the audience knows there's lots of different directors. There's the producers. There's executive producer, creative producer. There's consulting producers. There's associate producers. There's line producers. There's post-production producers. There's FX supervising producer. I mean, there's just so many different kinds of producers, and they have distinct roles, but sometimes there's overlap. For example, you could be the executive producer, the person who raises the money, and the creative producer, or you could be doing the whole thing all by yourself. You could line. I mean, but so do you have I hear kind of a creative producer in there that more than I hear executive producer, although I get it, but you know what I'm saying? Is that the thing about bringing it all together and making the story happen the thing that's the most appealing? Like, I don't want to go out and raise money, but I have to, right? I somebody to give it to me, but to get in and make the movie happen is for most exciting. What about you?
Yeah, well, interestingly, because of my pivot from traditional finance to filmmaking, my first foray into the business was film finance. And so I was raising money for films using my, because I knew a lot of people, investors that had money, and they wanted to park it somewhere other than a traditional investment. And, the risks aside, what more fun thing to invest in than a Hollywood movie? So I help raise a lot of money in that department. I've even put some of my own money into various film projects that other people did. But since then, since I started getting more heavily involved and more hands-on, yeah, I kind of go between the creative producer and executive producer in the sense that I'm making introductions uh, to just the regular producer, right? The person who is there every day on set making things happen, kind of, just putting everything together. The president and CEO of the project, if you will, because that takes, it takes a lot of skills that a lot of disparate skills that I've learned from all my prior careers. And you have to multitask. You have to be detail oriented. You have to be a people person. You have to be able to negotiate. You have to be able to understand technical and financial details. So when you put that all together, it makes me well suited for the job.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I always think for myself, there's so many contracts and there's so many different things you have to know, and there's so many different areas, and you're pulling things together, or you're financing it yourself, or you're looking for financing things. There's just so much to know. And if you enjoy it, then it's beautiful. But I for myself, and I'm sure this, but I know what I don't know, and so if I'm going to be part of a project in that regard, I need to also know when not to say, oh yeah, I can do that. As an actor, I started primarily as an actor, and one of the reasons I wanted to act and not produce or direct is because an actor can do 100, 200 movies in their lifetime, and an producer or director, if they're lucky, can do 20 or 30. And I mean, it's just the amount of time and commitment that somebody can, spend a lifetime doing. I mean, if you look at Steven Spielberg, as prolific as he is, he's not that prolific by comparison to some actors who've got 172 credits or 312 credits. So because it's just the nature of the business, right?
For sure.
And the whole different load of responsibility. I mean, I show up, they tell me where to stand and what the lights are and when to stop and when to start and how to get out of there to leave them alone so they can continue the project after me. Whereas the producer or the director, are the kind of the first people there and the last people to leave. And they may do that for 1 year or 10 or longer to get a project done. I mean, it's a different level of commitment. But what a beautiful, I love the business. And I love the fact that we get to tell stories. Do you have, you said reality show and now narrative films, do you also ever see yourself doing documentaries, or have you done those, or what is it what are you really passionate about when it comes to the kind of movies you want to make?
Well, like I said, I haven't done any, well, I guess I have done some short documentary pieces. I did little piece with a company out of San Francisco, actually Oregon. We shot in San Francisco. I'll tell you a little bit about this one because I'm very proud of it. It was a small team of filmmakers that came together. I was the director, and this piece is called "The Guardian of the Golden Gate." It was part of Still Motion, or Still Motion's web series called The Remarkable Ones. And The Guardian of the Golden Gate was about a CHP officer, California Highway Patrol officer, who was responsible for saving over 200 people from jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge when he was a motorcycle officer patrolling the bridge. And what was extraordinary about this man is, early in his career, he would get these calls to the bridge, but they had no specific training on how to talk somebody off that ledge. And so he would go back to his supervisor and say, hey, like, how, and some would jump and some would come back. Everybody says, like, how do we increase our numbers, like our favorable numbers? And like, what do I say to these people? And the only response he got was, well, use your police officer stuff. You're trained, just talk them off, right? Which is not helpful at all. And so what he did is, in his free time, evenings, weekends, he would go and actually study books on suicide and mental health and suicide prevention things. And he actually came up with a curriculum, a training course, and some some techniques that he would share with the CHP and help train his fellow officers on how to deal with with these people contemplating suicide. It was very successful. And then after he retired from the CHP, he continued to do it in his own company. I believe it's a nonprofit, and even today he speaks around the country, around the world on mental health and suicide prevention. His name is Officer Kevin Briggs, by the way, if you look him up. Kevin, Briggs. The film is called The Guardian of the Golden Gate. And probably if you Google that, he wrote a book on that with that same title. But you'll probably also find a lot of kind of news things about it, and also the short film that I did.
Oh,
and if later on, if you want to put the link in the notes, I'll share that with you, and everybody can see that. It's only 6 or 7 minutes long, but I'm very proud of that piece and the message that it was able to put out there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, we'd love to do that. I don't know if we can, I can't, but maybe the background team can change the description of the show after the show is recorded. But I personally don't know how to do that. But we'd love to add that or put it in the comments or somewhere. Unless, do you want to give it out? Do you know what the link is now? We can maybe make a scroll of it. If not,
I don't know. It's on YouTube.
Okay, and the name is
Guardian of the Golden Gate.
And so
in fact, if you put Guardian of the Golden Gate and my name, Jay Menez, that should be the first video that you find.
There you go.
I'm just guessing. I haven't tried that, but I think it's also on my YouTube channel somewhere on Hollywood Reel.
Well,
it's back there. It's back there somewhere. I had to include it back there.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And wow, what a life. How many people did you say he did? 170?
Oh, over 200.
Over 200.
Over 200 lives saved. Yes. Yes. And so in doing that, we were able to interview some of the people that he was able to save, and talk, and they got to express how grateful they were and where their lives were then and where they are now. And it's just a really inspiring story. And it's those sort of stories that I want to tell, whether it's this mini documentary thing or a feature biopic. I love stories like Rudy, right? Where you've got the underdog who really wanted something really bad, and through all this adversity overcame the odds and was able to achieve his dream. I think that's the sort of content that more people should see, especially young people. Of all the stuff that's out there, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of trash out there, but I think these inspiring stories can serve them for a long time, because and what I like about a feature biopic really is that it's a story. Unlike documentaries where it looks like a news program and you're still kind of detached from it, when you're watching a feature biopic and you kind of get immersed in the story, like the TV shows like House of Dragons, the things you watch, it's almost, you kind of get lost and you're in that scene. And so, with an inspirational biopic like that, I think that kids, they get the message, they get inspired, and they get the idea that, wow, I really can do anything if I put my mind to it. I just have to believe in myself. I have to work hard. I have to be consistent. I have to be committed. Those are the elements that, those are the values, the things that we should be instilling in the young people.
Well, that's beautifully said, and absolutely, and I think that as with any art form, you can use it for less than wonderful reasons. I mean, you can create garbage or you can create gold, kind of thing, and too often, too many people create garbage, intentionally or otherwise. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's like you can use anything for its lowest purpose or its highest purpose, and I think having more stories that inspire people to live higher or live better, or to accomplish what they want to accomplish, or whatever. I think is something we really, really need. The other thing about the biopics, some are really, really bad, and some can be really, really good. I mean, it's an art form all to itself, because you're trying to go, you're either taking a segment of a person's life, like their teenage years, or you're trying to tell their entire life story, which, over an hour and a half or something like that. So, I mean, it's a pretty interesting, genre all to its own. Have you, in your studies of doing or pursuing and making this kind of thing happen, is there anything that you've learned particularly about telling a biography as opposed to just a regular narrative, that the constraints that you might have or the liberties that you might take?
Well, yeah. So in any biopic, that you do have to take creative liberties just to make it interesting, because you have to fast forward in spots and skip over some things, just to make it the story tighter. But so that's a delicate balance between what really happened and what you're kind of fudging a little bit for the sake of story, to create the most impact. But as with any movie, really, it's about the emotional impact. You have to, you not only have to figure out what that arc is, create that arc with characters that have passion. You have to create that conflict. But you also have to create that emotional roller coaster that keeps people on the edge of their seat and going, "What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next?" And and so early on, you have to make that character relatable, and a character that the audience, that the viewer will root from the beginning. So, I guess to answer your question, it's not really too different from any other well-told story. There's that hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell hero's journey that you have to take them through. It's a tried and true model, and so it's really just fitting your story into that, and then in the end, there has to be a moral of the story, right? We call it a jab, right? What is the takeaway from the story, which is a universal truth, right?
Oh,
So if you tell that story right, then that universal truth will be evident in the end. And I guess at the end of all this, that takeaway is what you want the viewer to have. You want them to be inspired and to get that lesson from it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we were talking before about having conversations. I could sit here and listen to you for hours and hours and hours, and ask questions and pick your brain. I really do enjoy this. I know we both have hard stops, so and that's going to come up in a little bit, because I know you have a meeting, and I want to ask. I love this, and I would continue to pursue it. But I do want to ask about Hollywood Real, because that also is something that's ongoing, and you do celebrities and sports figures and different people in the limelight. How'd you decide to do that? And before we end, both if you have upcoming guests, or if you want to talk more about your upcoming projects or anything before we close out, I want to make sure that you have time to do that.
Right. Okay. Well, Hollywood Real, it's I like to say bold conversations with the most fascinating people in entertainment and sports, and often about life behind the scenes, not only behind the scenes on set, but just real life. What is the stuff? How did they come up? How did they get to where they are to find success? And how did they navigate the challenges and the adversity that we all have, in trying to accomplish anything? And those are the kind of interviews that I have. I like to say that my interviews are more Oprah, deep and thoughtful, and probing, revealing. More of that than your late night talk show. Nothing wrong with them. They're funny. They're hilarious. But they tend to be more on the surface. And what are we working on today? Like, what's that latest project? And I figure that people could go to the other shows for that. But the conversations that I like to have, the show that I want to do, probes much deeper. And so, I have people from all over the entertainment industry, and actors, musicians, dancers, pro athletes, authors. There's tons of authors I admire. Robert Greene is an upcoming one that, he wrote the 48 Laws of Power, one of my favorite, because he really dives into success psychology, influence, persuasion, what makes us tick, which is evident by the title of his books, like The Laws of Power, Mastery, The Art of Seduction, The Laws of Human Nature, things like that. Anyway, you could Google him. He's got tons of stuff, my goal is to bring you some original answers, some original questions, things that he hasn't talked about or answered before. I always like it when a guest says, that I've had guests that have done hundreds, if not thousands, of interviews, and once in a while, one of them will go, I've never been asked that before, and so then I know that I'm on the right track, because not only do I enjoy bringing that to an audience's fresh perspective, but also, I think they enjoy it also, because a lot of times they do all these interviews and they get into this talking loop, these sound bites where they're just answering the same questions over and over and over again. And that can get a bit repetitive for them. While I'm sure they're grateful for the interview, it's just, they just keep doing that over and over again. And I want to create something that's memorable for them, for me, and for my audience.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Do you have shows coming up that you want to talk about, where people can find it? I mean, we've got the scroll, hollywoodreal.com, but anything that you want to mention, so that it'll be time constrained by if the people are watching the replay 6 years from now, but for now,
yes.
Go ahead.
Well, let's hope they watch it a few years from now. But
they can always go back and watch, right?
Yeah. So as it states there, if you go to hollywoodreal.com, it really takes you to a link page where, it's got links where the show is published. It's YouTube. It's on about 21 podcast stations, including Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, which is very popular. And I'm going to put the video version on Spotify pretty soon, now that that's open, as well as 100 plus OTT stations, your online TV that you get on your smart TV. So it's all over the place. And as far as things coming up, I've actually got a couple dozens that are still unpublished. And among those, there's David Meltzer, who is in entertainment. He was the head of what is it? He was the head of Lee Steinberg's organization, who's a big sports agent, who was the inspiration for Ari Gold on Entourage and Arliss, that show sports agents and everything. And so David Meltzer, very instrumental in making that happen. Oh, Jerry Maguire, also the Tom Cruise character. And then I've got Zach Sudfeld, who's a retired NFL football player, came out of the Patriots. He's coming up. Just last week, I interviewed Tia Carrere, who is best known as Cassandra, the haughty rocker girlfriend from Wayne's World, right? And so that was a really fun interview, because not only is she a fellow Filipina, but she's also a brilliant musician, having won 2 Grammys. People don't know that, but she's on tour right now, so I'll give her the little pitch there. And then there's a young lady by the name of Jen. Gosh, what was her last name? I can't remember. She's going to kill me. Anyway, this was a girl who was born with no legs, and she became an Olympic level gymnast. And she had grown up. Jen Bricker. I'm sorry, Jen. Jennifer Bricker, and so she grew up idolizing Dominique Moceanu, the Olympic gold medalist. And later on in life, after Jen had found a success in gymnastics, they came together, they met, and found out that Dominique is her biological sister, her real sister.
Wow.
Can you believe that? Like, they grew up completely separately and both became Olympic level gymnasts, even though one had no legs. Wow. Incredible story. So I can't wait to bring that one to you, and dozens more.
Gotta let us know when that one's on, and we got to search it and look for it and follow the show. So that's awesome. Jay, we're out of time, but I could go on and with you for a long, long time. I know you've got a client you've got to get to and stuff that's going on there in, what was it? The Pleasure.
Oh, no, Celebration,
Florida. Awesome. Yes. What a great name. So I want to thank you so much for being here. We'll have to do this again, but thank you. And I wish you happy trails. Hang out in the green room for a minute. I'll be right back after we close the show. Mr. Jay Menez, HollywoodReal.com. And there you can see how to reach him on Instagram as well as at his own website. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rex. I really appreciate it. Wow, what an amazing time. Let's do it again.
I would love to. Thank you so very much. We'll see you next time. And everybody, you can go ahead and share out this show. Share Jay and his wisdom and his expertise with your friends and your family, and even with strangers on social media. Go ahead, like the show, leave comments, and subscribe, and be sure to check out Jay's offerings and get his book, Spark. All right. Well, with that, I have to tell you about my book and close the show. My book is Life on Your Terms, Create the Life You Want, and you can get that at Amazon. And when you get it from Amazon, I want to give you something special for your purchase at Amazon. You get the soft cover, the hardcover book there. Go to the website below, rexsikes.com/book, and I'm going to give you a bonus training absolutely for free. It's online. It's valued at $497 on the Mastery Loop. That's how you master your thoughts, your feelings, your speech, your behaviors, and any of your talents or skills, including your pocketbook that you'd like to master. It's how we learn and how we master and experience mastery. So get the book, and then be sure to get the training, the Mastery Loop, and that's my gift to you. And with that, I want to tell you it's been my pleasure for having you here today. I've got great guests coming up next time. I think my next guest, and I didn't look, and I didn't check my calendar, but I think it's Mitzi Perdue. She is the daughter of the hotel magnate who created the Sheraton hotels, as I believe, if I'm not misstating things, and is the wife of Perdue Chicken. He's passed away, but she's still there. She's a billionaire, and her sons are billionaires. They made their money, and she's going to be talking with us. She's written a new book on Mark Victor Hansen, and Missy's a friend, and I love her. I can't wait to have her on the show. But thank you so much for being here. I want to thank Jay Menez again for being here, and I want to say, if you consider something a problem, it will be a problem. If you consider it a blessing, it'll be a blessing. We're here every Thursday. Come and join us. Watch the past shows. You can find them on the Los Angeles Tribune or on my YouTube channel or wherever they're streaming. And in the meantime, celebrate everything.